Today is July 31st, and just like I was saying the other day, it's time to go on an upswing. So let's get into it. I was kind of in this lull of like not really knowing what to do. And I think that sometimes when I'm like working through these programs, like trying to put something together like this, I know that I spend a lot of time kind of like organizing and then reorganizing and then rehashing and then kind of like restructuring the things that I've already kind of worked through. And in some ways that makes sense because in my design I have a defined ajna center, which is the center for organizing and structuring thoughts. And this kind of defined energy is very prevalent in my experience. And it's not that this is a bad thing because I think that's where one of my strengths are to take um, all this information and structure it in a way that makes sense for me. I think where I fall into a trap is that I sometimes take too much time structuring and restructuring things without putting it out there so that other people can observe it and give me feedback. Realistically, that's one of the scary things about putting content out into the world. That's one of the scary things about producing things and saying, hello, like this is what I have for you. So then how do you get over that? Well, you get over that by doing something, by putting things in front of other people and having conversations and being ready for that feedback. If I were to be honest with myself and think back of like where I was, not even just at the beginning of this series, but like way like back, like 5 years or so, at the very least, thinking about putting like these things that I hold dear to me, um, the thoughts, the ways of working, the kind of concepts and ideas, putting it in front of people and then having that, like asking for feedback, is a challenge because sometimes like I don't want to hear it. Like, and that's kind of a place where I was, where I do recognize there was a point in time when I was much more oppositional to the perspectives of other people. I feel that much less now. And I think part of that comes from being open to accepting that feedback from other people, to be ready to sit and hear and listen, and to accept it as their perspective. And then from that point, take it forward and say, like, okay, how am I going to use this? Where does that kind of all fit in? One of the things that is most challenging is to hear a piece of feedback, to have somebody say something to you and then not react. Um, because like that happens, right? Like if somebody says something that might be offensive or triggering to you, it's very easy to say, I don't like this. And then you start spinning into that mode of like you get into your own head thinking that I don't like this. I don't want to be down this path. And let me tell you why you're wrong. I can't say that I will not do that 100% of the time. I know that that still happens from time to time. But even having the awareness that it happens and to be able to acknowledge it is a big step for me. And it might be something that like you might start noticing, identifying where those feelings start to come up. I was speaking with my friend Anjana the other day, last night actually, and I was talking specifically about this work that I'm doing. And she had a lot of great advice, and we had a wonderful conversation around um, what I was feeling and what I was going through. And I think, number one, that's a big step for me to reach out to someone and say, hey, like, could you help me out with this? I've done that more and more over the last number of years, and this is an extension of that. I think it's one of those things that I don't often do. Uh, But I do find that when I do it, it's really helpful, especially because I'm in a place now where I can be open and accepting to feedback and to information. One of the things that she said that I really liked was I was talking about how I was feeling and some of those things that I'm like brushing up against and pushing up against, where in my mind, I'm wanting to put together. So, number one, I want to be in a position where I can share this information share all the learnings that I have so that I can help other people and to guide them and to show them really how to implement this into their own lives and support them in implementing that. So that's one piece. The other thing that comes up is like when I'm creating this thing that that I want to sell, right? Because there's a value to it, and I need to be um, two things. One is I need to see the value in myself, so then I can go and step forward and say like, here's something that's potentially valuable for you, and if you like it, then this is what it costs. And some of that, somewhere along that pathway, I get stopped up because of kind of thinking of some of the structures in terms of like a capitalist structure or like that consumerist structure that I don't like. There's also a performative aspect to showing up and saying, "Hey, look at me! Like I can do this thing for you," and like the and like identifying that um, first, like that I'm experiencing those things. But what she pointed out was that um, this situation is not that. This is not that. It's something completely different. And it kind of highlights how our brains work. It's like when you are in kind of this situation where um, it feels similar or some similar feeling comes up, like the root is kind of like you strike that chord and it's like resonating with that old pattern. It's easy to kind of like superimpose and kind of cross the wires. So I understand that. I understand like how those wires get crossed and all of this. And then at the same time, being in my own problem, being in my own experience, going through the things that I'm going through, it's I can understand how difficult it can be from an internal perspective to see these things. That's where that like radical self-reflection and like really being able to sit with yourself and say, accept that feedback of like, you're right. This isn't the same thing. I might feel similarly, but it's not the same thing. The other part of it that I was realizing and kind of still conceptualizing and like feeling into at this point is um, I don't know what that thing that I want feels like. I can imagine it, I can make it up. And I also know that it's not exactly how it might feel like at that point when I have that thing. I've thought about this before in the past where thinking about a defined endpoint, like what does it mean to be successful in this venture, right? Is it a certain number of likes? Is it a certain number of shares? Is it like comments on my videos or downloads or whatever? Like there's all these metrics. And what does success look like ultimately? And what does that feel like? Because even now, like looking at um, some of the metrics and the analytics, I'm kind of like doing my best to separate, detach from the result. That detachment, I think, is a step towards figuring out what that new state feels like. And I'm at that point of like needing to put it out there so that I can get feedback on that. So that's what I'm kind of thinking about today. To target and focus down what I'm doing so that I can put it into something that's digestible, accessible, and so that accessible so that other people can access it. Like that's what accessibility is, right? Yeah. And it's curious. I think that maybe all the work that I did gave me a good perspective and kind of a good kind of fundamental underpinning, a foundation to move forward with this work and what the like spending that time to understand what that message I want to put out there is. And this is just a process of refining it. And refining it now, I got only so far with sharing it with like a small circle, as well as thinking it through with myself. And now, I guess the scary part is uh, putting something out there and saying like, hey, like, look at this. I want to share this with you and get your feedback on it to a wider audience of people. And I don't know if it's because that it's like, it's that unknown that kind of feels unsafe, right? When you don't know what the outcome is, like I can only assume, I would guess, and I could imagine like the best and the worst kind of possible outcomes. And like how much worse could it theoretically get to like nobody looking or nobody paying attention to it? And that's fine. So it's like there's so many paths to the same outcomes. It's really up to me to choose. And because it's up to me to choose, that is the most challenging part of like understanding what you want. Like if you clearly understood what you want, then you would know exactly how what you need to do to get there. And like I don't mean like get a job and get married and all of those things. Like those are great, wonderful things to do with your life and great ways of spending your time. At the same time, it may not, those aren't the things that will fulfill you theoretically. There may be a deeper layer underneath because you are more than a job role, you are more than your position in a family, you are more than all of these things. Not to minimize any of those things, but you are more than that. Then the question is, what are you? What are you? And in some ways, I'm asking myself, like, what am I? It's weird to think about what I am to other people. And I think that if I think about it too much, I overthink. So what I'm thinking about, like what I'd like to do with this program is like put something out there that is to help relieve burnout. And how would I do that? Through understanding that the symptom of that is doing too much. So then what are the things that we do too much of? So overthinking is one of them. I used to be much worse. And now I'm in this phase of action. And moving through that overthinking and getting to action is a win. Other things that we do too much of is hold on to limiting beliefs. When we're holding on to these things, they're beliefs. Beliefs are not truths. Beliefs are not absolute. They're just simply things that you believe. So then when we hold on to these limiting beliefs and act as if they are ours to act from, it changes how the actions that we take. And I think like this is the part where it starts to get inaccessible because I feel like I'm just like explaining. I'm trying to I'm trying to justify the things that I'm saying, which is important, but also maybe not necessary because the people that need this, where it's a problem, they'll likely already understand that. And that's probably like the easiest way forward. So, the best thing to do for me now is to put it out there and just make it nice and simple and clear and just continue to iterate on that. I talked with Christian a number of weeks ago, actually, and I might have even said it on one of these logs where, like, oh, I'm going to open up my calendar and have people be able to book in. And it's one of those things that I was like, had every intention of doing. And then when I got down to doing it, I didn't know when to do it. I'm like, ugh, like you're watching me struggle in real time. And like, it's simple enough to open it. I think that opening up a schedule to me feels like making a promise. And if something comes up into that space where I can't meet that scheduled time, then I'm like, am I letting people down? But then again, like this is what overthinking is like because it's like none of this has actually happened. It's not a situation. So then it's better to put something out there at the risk. Like if I were to do something, there's always the potential of disappointing someone. And to be okay with that. Because if not, then everything would be frozen. So I'm just in this space of I keep floating around. And I think this is like the time to anchor down a little bit, hunker down. And that's kind of all that's on my mind today. Um, it's funny considering like the length of time. Tomorrow will be actually day 50, which is halfway to 100. Yeah. So there's like, this is an accomplishment for me. I'm going to take a time to appreciate what I've done. And one of the things that I've done is be consistent with this, to just show up on camera. Because even as I'm coming through this whole process, I'm realizing that it's easier to show up. And it's easier to show up because I've showed up yesterday and the day before and the day before that. Realistically, there are times when, especially in the last 2 or 3 days, where I was kind of like, should I like not do one today? Because I'm thinking that it's that kind of like oppositional part of me where it's like, oh, like I'm like 40 days in, I've been consistent, but then like if I break it, like what's the worst thing that can happen? Like nothing's gonna happen. Nobody's gonna care if like I miss one or whatnot. And it's, again, I'm not doing this because anybody necessarily cares about it. My friend Sharon sent me a Instagram talking about how like nobody's gonna remember you like after you die, because like we're all ending up there eventually. So then just do what you want. Like be comfortable. The worst thing that you could do is not be yourself. So then like if it's myself to sit in front of a camera and kind of like just like sit there in thought, maybe that's me, right? Like the algorithm's interesting. The algorithm's very interesting because, and I'm thinking of like, let's say like the TikTok algorithm and like how videos are edited and there's always like something happening all the time. And it's easy to fall into that like space of always producing something and thinking that you have to produce something to be productive, and that being productive is the end goal, which is, I don't know if that's right. I think it's more important to be creative, to be creating something. So like what am I creating here? I don't know. I'm just creating something, creating thought, putting things out into space. Part of it is talking through my brain stuff and like psyching myself up. And then also to sit down and create, not to be productive, but to actually like create something that's meaningful, I think is really important. So like with what I'm doing here with like this series, I like the rambling. I want to take that space. It's like I was thinking the other day. So my Anjana had also said to me that I hold space for others, for so many others. Um, and the part that I thought was like, the question that I asked myself was like, am I holding space for myself in this particular format? This is a time for myself because like, who cares about all of this lights? It's like it's a fun thing for me, right? Um, just because like I prefer how this looks to like, so it's for me. And then when I'm in this space, like, is this for me? Like these are supposed to be reflections. So what am I reflecting? I like to default into that. Like I want to share something useful with you. And like if we were ever in conversation, um, I will kind of like switch tangents and like kind of switch topics and then bring it all together somehow. It can be a bit of a journey. I'm curious. Sometimes I'm even like apprehensive about asking like mm, students and like other people how this type of like format, in terms of like, hey, I'm gonna like talk to you about stuff and I'm gonna take you where we kind of, let's go on a journey together, and then at the end we'll part we'll part ways. I'd love to be able to do that in a bigger space, because I some of the feedback that I've gotten has been positive, and then other times I just kind of like do things because I think it's what's important. I do that a lot, don't I? Like just inhale. It's good to breathe. Breathing's very interesting. That's a whole other topic. Um, so I think I'm gonna pause there. It's like these. It's like like you have the messy middle. Like this is like feels the most messy I've ever been. But that's probably a good sign because realizing that gives me an opportunity to clean things up. So yeah, yeah. I'm gonna stop there for today.